Let me tell you about the day that changed my life forever. A few weeks ago, my class and I were doing a model parliament in my Canadian and world politics class. We were all divided into different parties out of the NDP's, Conservatives, Liberals, and Bloc Québécois, which are the major parties in Canada. Before I continue, I want to give you a bit of a background on Canadian politics. So you have a party in power. That party is elected based off of how many seats they have in Parliament. These seats are determined based off of a federal election. You get these seats based off of how many representatives from your party are elected in. They are elected in by a certain group of people in a certain area of the country. So the party with the most amount of seats are the ones in power. The party with the second largest number of seats is called the official opposition. Official opposition and the leading party are the two primary players within government. To get any bill or policy passed, you must get a majority of votes. So I was a Liberal, and the Liberal Party is in power right now. The official opposition are the Conservatives. The work I had to do was pick a minister in the actual Liberal caucus. I chose the housing minister. Then we were tasked to do three main things. First, write a policy statement. In this policy statement, we had to explain the major problems that this minister faced and how they were going to solve that problem. Second was to create a policy or a bill that we would debate on in Parliament and actually pass. And the third was to present and debate that bill. So I created my statement and then my bill. No problems whatsoever. However, the presenting and debating was a completely different beast. I always struggled with the presenting. I would stand up in front of the class, and no matter how prepared I was, I would always just freeze up and not know what to say or stutter or mix of all those things. However, this did not happen on that fateful day. I remember sitting down unsure if we were going to present. All these presentations were pushed back because of Remembrance Day assemblies and our teacher getting sick. Someone was already going to go first, no matter if I was presenting or not. So that made things unsure. But on a whim, 2 minutes before class, I raised my hand and volunteered to present my bill. Immediately, I thought to myself, shit. After we did the national anthem and announcements, the first person went. All went well. There were obviously questions that they did well on and that they didn't. Nothing unusual. Then I was up. I stood up, paper in hand. I looked down at my page and started reading the first line, voice shaking, and then the second, and then the one after, and the one after, and the one after. My hand was shaking so violently that I had to hold it with two hands just to read what I had written. However, my confidence grew as I continued to read. So did my passion. Then, I finished and sat down. Great, I did quite good. I spoke loudly and with great confidence, I thought to myself. The confidence disappeared moments later as my opposition stood up and started to tear apart the bill I'd worked on so much over the past weeks. Once he finished, I had to stand up again and say something. I didn't feel prepared at all. I thought for a moment before standing. I stood and paused for a moment before saying, Mr. Speaker, which is what you usually say when you're in Parliament. And then I continued to talk. I accused them of only wanting to criticize this bill because they wanted to get their sound bites and that they wanted to help their rich buddies, which was obviously not true. What I said was pretty convincing because as I sat down, I heard a roar of cheers, not just from the Liberals, which was my party, but the NDP and the Bloc Québécois, the two other parties that I was not criticizing at all. And as I was sitting down, I heard heckles from the Conservatives, or how, or you're full of it. Once the clapping had died down, my opposition stood up. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but really after this, everything went uphill. So, what did I learn from this? The thing that I learned from this was that I like doing debates in this style. I found something I was quite good at. It's so interesting how one class, lesson, or just event in your life can really change the whole course of your career or your life. I now have somewhat of a plan of getting into politics and doing this kind of stuff, so I really believe that this has changed the trajectory of my life. Here's the lesson I have for you. Try everything. Join every single club. Buy that book or course. It can really change your life. Life is all about chance. I believe that chance was in my favor in this situation, and it will be in your favor at some point if you try everything.